When it comes to the Trump movement, more people saw that coming than you think. Even I said something back in October about this. I was responding to Keith Olbermann, and I was just, first of all, I just want to say that I love Keith, but he is totally wrong by becoming a Democratic shill. I've always known that he leaned Democratic, of course, because he's always fought back against the right. And I felt it was fair at the time because of Fox News being so far right that he actually leveled out the playing field a little bit on the left. But he's gone to the internet and he just took to bashing Trump. That's all he was about, was bashing Trump. Wasn't about supporting Hillary because he knows he has no kind of argument there for her. So he just bashed Trump. So I didn't agree with his piece he did. And I was just making it aware that other people could see that it was obvious she was going to lose. I mean, she couldn't fill up a school gym, and yet Trump was bringing out 10s, 20,000 people. Like, it was the same thing with the Ron Paul movement. I mean, you could see these hundreds of thousands of people showing up for Ron Paul, and yet they'd say he wasn't relevant. I mean, the media just continues to ignore the obvious, and this was pretty obvious that she was going to lose. I said she was going to lose. Everybody could see she was going to lose. Only the real obsessed ones about putting a female in office, no matter which female it is, even if it's the wrong female, those are the only ones that did not see it. Because there was nothing to fight for on her side. And there was plenty of stuff she could have done. One of the things she could have done was made Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders her VP. Either one of those would have pushed the progressive movement to be motivated to go to the polls. And she just didn't even go that route. She just went completely right wing on her VP. And so that hurt her. It hurt her tremendously because she kept slapping the Democrats in the face. Look, Debbie Watson and Schultz did it during the Bernie campaign. They were so horrible to them in Vegas. Watch the coverage and you tell me. But she was horrible. And so then we get a little bit of victory when we get rid of Debbie off the DNC chair position. And what's Hillary do? She hires her that same day to take away that victory from the progressives. So at every turn, it was Hillary slapping us in the face and daring us not to come out and vote for her because of Donald Trump. But when you act like that, there's no way we're going to come vote for you. I got news for you. It just ended up slapping you in the face. And I bet you it hurt more, too. But it's going to hurt us for a long time. I'm not crazy. I know what was at stake. But I could not vote for her. I couldn't do it. She did everything wrong. First of all, she won't even use her husband, and he was like her best way forward for the campaign because he's the best campaigner ever. Yet for some reason, she continues to make Bill take the sidelines while she runs her campaign completely awful. So there's her first mistake. So first of all, she's stupid because she's not even using her best asset that she has to her. So that didn't help as far as I'm concerned. Because I'll tell you right now, people thought that it might have been more of Bill and less of her. They might have came out in drones for that, but they didn't because she made it obvious that Bill had nothing to do with her campaign, and she continued to let him have nothing to do with her campaign. I don't know why Bill Clinton comes off as somebody that's going to hurt you when he's got to be one of the most successful campaigners that we've ever seen. And they've done it the whole time. They've constantly said that Bill's going to be this drag on certain campaigns. In this case, I'm referring to Al Gore. And yet, he's never a drag on campaigns because people like Bill Clinton. They just do. He did horrible things. He wasn't that great of a president, but they still really like Bill. They really hate Hillary, and they've got plenty of reason to. Now, she's got plenty of reason, I guess, to, despise the progressives. They've been messing with her whole career, from when she was in college and she first, started, she first got married to Bill. She didn't want to take his last name. Progressives freaked out, so made her take his last name. And, she's kind of held a little bit of a chip on her shoulder the whole time. So she can't hide it. She can't hide how much she despises the left. So that's what happened with Hillary Clinton, okay? It had nothing to do with really Donald Trump. Now, on that side, I will say the reason that people are motivated behind Donald Trump mainly had to do with the fact that he was not with the establishment. The establishment was against him. And they kept coming out with stuff by the establishment, um, going against Trump. And every time they did it, it helped Trump's poll numbers rise. They kept helping him. And they kept thinking it was going to hurt him when the establishment came out against him and would say stuff. It would constantly make him go up in the polls because the people are fighting back against the government. And the fact that you are always on the bank side, we fight you at every level on that. We said, no, 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 don't give the banks the money. We think we win, and then they come back the next day and pass it anyway. And all kinds of stuff goes on like that. And we're sick of it. We're just sick of it. Those banks get money for free, and yet they need more money? What kind of sense does that make? They get to make money off of nothing with paper, and yet they get more money when they screw up and start betting with our money and lose it. That's their fault. That's on them. But you got to make Glass-Steagall come back into effect to take away the incentives on the side of the banks to do that kind of thing. If they weren't allowed to do it, they wouldn't do it. But you're allowing them to do it. You're allowing them. You're feeding their vice. Their vice is money, and when you do that, everybody starts to utilize that gap in regulations, and then it gets out of control, and the next thing you know, we're giving them the American people's money. And not only that, but you didn't even do anything for the people that lost their homes. When they were doing all kinds of shenanigans with nobody even has the paperwork. Now, when you buy a house, you usually get the deed put in your hand, or banks have the deed if it's, they're giving you a loan. Now, they don't even know where the deeds are to a lot of these homes, so they just started to fabricate these fake papers and show up in court with fake documents because they don't have the bill of the deed, to the house anymore. They don't have it. It's gone. They started doing it online, which was said to be unconstitutional. And they'd done it. It already started doing it, whether or not they were allowed to or not. And all of that became kind of mixed together and put out with all these different derivatives and stuff like that. And they just broke them up so many times, nobody knows who owns what now. And did they do anything to fix that? No. And the real estate is still being held back so that they can keep their inflated prices up. And because if they flood the market with too many homes, then the home prices drop. But that's what they need to let happen. They need them to drop because they're way too high. And the American people know that too. So that's what fueled his campaign, was people mad at the establishment. And then when the establishment would come out for Hillary, it just made it worse. And whether it stopped them from voting for her or started them voting for him, it did one of those two things. It didn't do anything they wanted it to do. It didn't quell the movement, that's for sure. And plus, Donald made everything worse from just every day he would come out and say something else more horrible. And the media couldn't really keep up with his lies and couldn't keep up with his fabrications. They couldn't keep up with him. He was doing stuff every day. I mean, every time you started to report on something, before you could hear anything about it, they were on to the next one that he'd said. And so people lost a lot of the stuff that he said in the frenzy of Donald Trump. He is like a giant frenzy. But it's going to be really hard. This is going to be a really hard lesson. So I'm hoping that, and that was my thoughts back then, was that I would rather have a Republican in office than to have a fake Democrat, because the Dems stopped fighting back once they got a D in front of their name. I don't know why that is. I don't know why we don't allow Bush to get away with things that Obama got away with, but that is the truth. So I'd much rather have a Republican in there and have the Dems fighting back against him than to allow these fake Dems like Obama, because he's a total Republican and no good for our country. He's been a horrible warmonger, and he's going to go down as being the worst drone president ever. He's killed so many innocent people, slaughtered so many innocent people. And then, like, Hillary comes out there with her fakeness about being all wishy-washy about one death of a child, blah, blah, blah. But yet you don't feel that for the other children that are dying over there in the Middle East, do you? You know, we know this. We know this. So, anyways, I'm done on this one. And thank you for joining me. And subscribe down below. Thanks a lot.